So at this point, what's happening is I have an outage in my area, so I'm going to record the instructions for this assignment. I think this section should be fairly easy for you regardless, because most of you have already seen this and probably done this already. But I am going to provide you this video and quick refresher, and I think this will cover what we're covering in class anyway. So I'll start with example 1. In example 1, basically we have the division of this polynomial, the x squared plus 10x plus 21, and we're dividing it by x plus 3. So if I take x squared plus 10x plus 21 and divide it by x plus 3, my first line of question begins with asking what number or what letter times x to the 1 power will give me x to the 2 power. So obviously what I'm going to use here is x to the 1 power. And if I multiply this times the x, I get an x squared initially. And if I multiply the x times the 3, I get a positive 3x. So what I will do at this stage in the third step is I'm going to change the sign. So remember to change at this point the signs, and we do that by multiplying by -1. So this becomes, both become negative since they're initially both positive. What happens is this cancels, this leaves me with a 7x in this part, and now I drop the plus 21. So plus 21 goes right here. At this step, think of it as almost like a pause in a sense, and we repeat the process. So again, the next step will be to ask, this x1 times what will give me a 7x? Obviously times a plus 7. So now I distribute that back, and I end up with 7x plus 21. Okay, and again, at this stage, remember, we change the signs. Alright, and so as we progress with this, that means this becomes a negative, that becomes a negative. And so now if you notice, my final answer here is 0. And so I'm done. So the answer to this question then becomes, in terms of the final remainder, we would answer this as x squared plus 10x plus 21 divided by x plus 3 equals x plus 7, and that is the factor. This is your quotient, so this would be called the quotient. The remainder is 0. So in this case, we would say that x plus 3 is a factor of x squared plus 10x plus 21. Okay. So if you wish to try one on your own, I would ask you to try to divide where I have x squared plus 14x plus 45, and you're going to divide that by x plus 9. The answer that you should obtain should be x plus 5. So this is your question, and there's your answer, just in case you want to check your work. Example 2. In example 2, I have the long division of polynomials. So if I take 3x minus 2 and I divide it into, now notice that these are out of order, technically. So I'm just going to shuffle them around so that they make sense to me. This is a positive 6x cubed. This is a negative x squared. Notice that's a negative. This is a negative 5x, and this is a plus 4. So literally you have to take the sign with it. So once you do that, you begin the process, and you ask, well, 3x times what will give me 6x? So we start with 2x squared. Obviously, if I distribute this, I'm going to end up with 6x cubed minus 4x squared And remember, at this stage, we're going to flip the signs around. So this becomes a negative and this becomes a positive. Okay, now once you do that, at this point, you would end up with 3x squared minus 5x. All I did was drop the first one down, because remember, this all canceled and this grouped together gives you 3x squared. Now, what would change this, or create this 3x squared with the first term would be an x. I'll distribute the x again. I'll get 3x squared minus 2x. So if you notice, you get a change. Alright, so this leaves you with negative 3x, right? Because negative 5 plus 2, negative 3x, drop your 4, so plus 4. Repeat the process. 3x times what will give you a negative 3x. So in this case, I just need a negative 1. So I'll distribute that back again, right? And so now I have a negative 3x and a positive 2. Alright, so what's going to happen here is I'll change the signs so that it becomes plus minus. Okay, and at this stage, obviously this cancels, just like this canceled here, leaving you a 2, which is the remainder. You can't divide further. Alright, so your answer for this would simply be 2x squared plus x minus 1 with plus 2 over 3x minus 2. So this is the remainder, alright? Alright, now example 4, or example 3 in this case. So here's example 3. In example 3, you have long division of polynomials. So this is a continuation, it's more of the same. And so in this case, they're asking you to divide 6x to the 4th power plus 5x to the 3rd power plus 3x minus 5, and we're dividing that by 3x squared minus 2x. So there's a couple of glitches on this one that you need to correct. We need to begin by noticing that there is a missing term, technically the 2nd power term. So we need to account for that in here. So that means that when I fill this in, this 6x to the 4th plus 5x to the 3rd plus a 0x to the 2nd. You gotta fill it in. This is the missing term. Okay, and then continue with what you do have. So we have a plus 3x minus 5. We are dividing that by 3x squared minus 2x. Okay, and that's fine. We don't need to continue with that. So what we're going to start with is, okay, so what times this will give me this number? So obviously 2x squared. If I distribute that back, I get 6x to the 4th minus 4x cubed. Okay, at this step, remember, we change the signs. So change the signs. So this becomes a negative, this becomes a positive, and this cancels out completely, leaving us 9x cubed plus 0x squared. So we drop the 0x squared, and now we repeat the process. Okay, what times the 3 is going to give us a 9x cubed? So if I did 3x, so if I did positive 3x and I distributed that, I would get 9x cubed minus 6x squared. And again, at this step, we change the signs. At this point, I'm just going to do abbreviations because it's a lot. Alright, so what happens is this cancels to a negative, this changes to a positive, so this all cancels away. And this leaves us with positive 6x squared. Now we drop the 3x. Repeat the process. So obviously, what times 3x squared gives me 6x squared is going to be a plus 2. So I'll redistribute that. I'll distribute that back. So now I have, once I distribute the 2 times 3x squared, I get 6x squared this will become minus 4x. Alright, and so we change the signs again. So this becomes negative, this becomes positive. I'm left with 7x, drop the 5, and this is a negative 5. So at this stage, believe it or not, we have to stop. And the reason we have to stop is because there is no way that I can multiply 3x squared and get a 7x unless I use some sort of division. So this is actually my remainder, okay? So we write the final answer as 2x squared plus 3x plus 2, and then the remainder portion is going to be plus the 7x minus 5 over 3x squared minus 2x. Okay, so that's the first 3 examples of this lesson. I'm going to stop the video here, assuming it recorded properly, and I'll continue and send